when we don't have our mitochondria functioning in tip-top shape, we have less energy. And so, yeah, we're going to feel that. We're not going to find urolithin A naturally in the food that we eat. We have to rely on our gut to make it for us. But most people don't have a healthy gut microbiome. And even if you're taking probiotics, even if you're taking prebiotics, there are studies that have shown that most people just aren't producing this molecule. Fiber and polyphenols in general just going to help to make your gut healthier.
Welcome to Mastery Podcast, where entrepreneurs and experts uncover the truth about health, wealth, and personal mastery. I'm Dr. Sas, and together we dive deep into strategies that elevate your business and well-being beyond mainstream advice. Get ready for powerful stories, expert insights, and transformational knowledge. Welcome back to Mastery Podcast. Today, we are diving into the science of longevity and mitochondrial health with Jennifer Scheinman, a registered dietitian and the nutrition affairs lead at Tamlan Nutrition. Tamlan has spent years researching Urolithin A, a compound shown to support muscle strength, energy, and skin health. While this episode is purely educational, of course, Tamlan is not sponsoring this, and I believe their research is valuable for anyone looking to optimize their health and longevity. Jen, welcome to Mastery Podcast. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. I'm so excited to be here. And this is just, I think aging and longevity is such a hot topic these days. So I'm just excited to share, my little piece of knowledge and piece of the puzzle of this complex.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to dive right into it, right? Mitochondrial health is something we don't often think about, right? Yet it plays a huge role in how we age, how much energy we have, and even how strong we feel day to day. And before we get to Urolithin A, Jen, can you give a quick breakdown of why mitochondria are so important for overall health?
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. I think we don't think about our mitochondria very often, and I'm on a mission to change that. I think when I think of mitochondrial health, I almost think of like where gut health was like 10 years ago. The science was there proving how important gut health was, but not everybody was fully aware of it. And now today it's like very commonplace. Everybody talks about gut health. And so mitochondrial health is similar in the fact that there is so much research linking the role of the mitochondria to almost every disease of aging and just aging itself. And so now we're just in this mission to start building awareness around what are the mitochondria, how do I care for them, and why is this something that's important? So I think, and I'll try and keep this as painless of a science lesson as possible, but I think when most people hear the word mitochondria, it's almost like a reflex. They think powerhouse of the cell, right? We learn that in high school biology. They are the energy generators of our cells. So almost all of the energy that our body needs to do its job comes from the mitochondria. But just like, if you think of them as like a little energy factory, just like any other factory, with wear and tear, it starts to get damaged. And so you have less cellular energy. And so therefore your cells aren't able to function the way they used to when we were younger. And that's really one of, they call these hallmarks of aging. These are biological processes why the body ages, and mitochondrial decline is one of those hallmarks.
Yeah, awesome. Now, how does mitochondrial dysfunction contribute to fatigue, muscle loss, and other signs of aging?
Well, if you think about it, right, if you don't have, so the mitochondria, their primary job, they do many, many things for the body, but what they do is they basically take the food that we eat and the air that we breathe, and they turn that into the energy we need to thrive and survive, quite frankly. So when we don't have our mitochondria functioning in tip-top shape, we have less energy. And so, yeah, we're going to feel that in terms of just fatigue during the day. We're going to feel like brain fog and just not being as sharp as we once were. And we're certainly going to feel it in our muscles as well. I think a big sign of that is if you do, a hard workout or just even something that's like more physically demanding than you normally do, and you feel like, God, I just didn't bounce back from that the way I used to when I was younger. Like now, you do something and the next day you need to rest all day, right? I think that's a really good sign that you're having age-related mitochondrial dysfunction.
Yeah. And that's the powerhouse, like you said. If there's no power in there, it's like the battery, right? Your battery run out pretty much if your
Yeah.
mitochondria is dysfunction. Now, are there natural ways, Jen, to support mitochondrial function? And where does the urolithin A fit into this picture? I know off offline, right? We spoke a lot about urolithin A with our last conversation. Can you kind of enlighten us a little bit how that works with the mitochondria?
Yeah. So the good news is that you can support mitochondrial health and it doesn't need to be overly complicated. Really, the things that support general health are going to support your mitochondria. So things like a good, healthy diet, things like exercise, sleep, all of that is going to be your foundational things to promote not only longevity, but specifically your mitochondria. But then there are specific nutrients that you can layer on top of once you have that good foundation that are going to give your like a little more TLC to your mitochondria. And so this nutrient, urolithin A, and I know that's a bit of a mouthful for people who've never heard it before. Check out the show notes so you can see the spelling of it. But urolithin A is a molecule that's found in nature. And what it does is it triggers our recycling process of our mitochondria. So our bodies are so cool, right? Like we have these innate ability inside our bodies to heal and recover. But unfortunately, this one particular process that helps our dysfunctional mitochondria to become recycled, that also diminishes as we get older. So urolithin A is a molecule that can help to trigger a recycling process. It's called mitophagy. It's a sciencey word, but that basically just means the recycling of your dysfunctional mitochondria. And the thing that's really interesting is that urolithin A is the only molecule that in humans in clinical trials has been proven to stimulate this recycling process. So you can recycle your mitochondria through exercise, through fasting and calorie restriction. But then this molecule, urolithin A, is another way to do that and to optimize mitochondrial function.
Great, great. Thank you for that explanation. I hope everybody get it. You can, rewind and listen to it again if you need that repeated. But most people have never heard of urolithin A, right? Me too, until we met and start talking about it. And you sent me some literatures and stuff. I had never heard of it. Actually, can you explain what it is and how it's formed in the body?
Yeah, so you are not alone. I think most people have never heard about it. And
Hmm.
quite frankly, like 3 years ago, I had never heard of it either.
Hmm.
Um, and I think part of the reason why people hadn't really heard about it was that there wasn't a product with like marketing dollars to go out there and talk about it. And there wasn't something you could do necessarily to produce more urolithin A in your body. And so now that there is dietary supplements and with marketing budget behind it, we're starting to hear a lot more about it. And I also think that mitochondrial health and longevity are also both like blooming areas right now. So we're going to hear more and more about it. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about where it comes in nature, because I want your audience and your listeners to know that this is something that's been studied for like over 15 years. This is not something that just exploded on the market and it has questionable safety and efficacy. So it's something that our bodies should technically have all the time, but so it's what's called a postbiotic nutrient, which might also be a new term for a lot of people. I think people are very familiar, obviously, with probiotics, the bacteria that live in our gut. Prebiotics, those are the food that fuel our gut microbiome. And then our microbiome takes those prebiotics, and in this case, it is polyphenols that are in fruits and vegetables. Um, it's specifically here pomegranates, but it turns it into urolithin A. So our gut is making urolithin A for us. So sort of simply put, we're not going to find urolithin A naturally in the food that we eat. We have to rely on our gut to make it for us. But most people don't have a healthy gut microbiome. And even if you're taking probiotics, even if you're taking prebiotics, there are studies that have shown that most people just aren't producing this molecule. And the few people that do actually produce it aren't really producing enough of it. You would actually have to drink 6 cups of pomegranate juice every day to get the same benefits that we're seeing in like a supplemental form of it. So it's not something that, while it exists in nature, it's not something that like we're getting very easily on a daily basis.
Yeah. I have a pomegranate tree in my backyard when I was growing up, and we would just go there whenever it's ripe and just eat it.
Yeah,
And that was in Thailand, but I can't imagine eating enough to be equivalent to 6 cup of the and it's so we get that from pomegranate and berries, right?
correct. And some nuts like
Some
pecans
nuts.
and walnuts. So these specific polyphenols, they're not even in like a wide variety of foods that we eat. So that's sort of why even if you have the right gut microbiome, chances are you're not eating enough of the dietary precursors. But if you think about like where we evolved, I mean, we probably were eating tons and tons of
Mhm.
foods that had all these polyphenols, and we had such a robust gut microbiome. But now with like antibiotic use and poor diet, and we
Yeah.
just don't have a very diverse, healthy gut microbiome anymore. And so that is why we've probably like naturally evolved out of having this molecule in us all the time.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now I understand that only 30 to 40% of the people can naturally produce urolithin A, right? Why is
Right.
that, and how I mean you talk about diet. Can we like play around with diet a little bit to make our gut microbiome healthier so we can just drink pomegranate and eat a bunch of berries and have, you know, kind of enough urolithin A?
Well, so there are plenty of things that we can do to make our gut healthier. So
Mhm.
absolutely, we want to make sure that we are eating a whole food diet with lots of dietary fiber, and polyphenols in general just going to help to make your gut healthier. The thing is, we haven't really been able to identify which particular species of like gut bacteria produces urolithin A. So I couldn't even say like to produce more urolithin A, take this probiotic, or like eat this type of food and that's going to help grow this type of bacteria. We just don't know that yet. And while there are certain foods that are going to give you some of these dietary precursors, like pecans and pomegranates, you would just have to eat a whole lot of it in order to get enough urolithin A. So pomegranates, pecans, like these are healthy foods that absolutely should be in your diet for a whole host of reasons. But if you're eating them specifically just for urolithin A, the volume you would have to do would be
A lot.
probably, yeah, probably hard to attain.
Yeah.
And since we don't even know if like you or I have the right gut microbiome,
Mhm.
I could drink all the pomegranate juice in the world. If I don't have the right gut microbiome in
Yeah.
there, the right bacteria, I'm not going to make it anyways. So, and
Yeah.
we've seen that. We have it's not, unfortunately, it's not available for the masses yet, but we actually do have some blood tests that we can do that test, is there urolithin A in your blood? Like after you drink pomegranate juice, do you have any in your blood? After you take a supplement, is there some in your blood? And we can kind of see the difference there. And that's where we really found this through this research that most people don't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. So supplement is really, really important. And we're going to come to that in a little bit. Now, you mentioned that, or through our conversation, I'm not sure we say that in the beginning, but urolithin A supports mitochondrial renewal. And what
Correct.
does that actually mean for someone's energy levels and endurance, like in
Yeah.
the gym or if they're an athlete and stuff like that?
Yeah. So if you have healthier mitochondria, they are going to output more energy than a dysfunctional mitochondria.
Mhm.
And so the clinical studies that have been done, which I think are so interesting around urolithin A, was first looking at, yes, in fact, urolithin A is inducing this recycling process in our mitochondria. And that was a study that was done in older adults, and we used muscle biopsies. So that's a question I get often is like, how do I know if my mitochondria is dysfunctional? And how do I know that this is working? And unfortunately, like you just can't go to your doctor and ask them to test mitochondrial function. There isn't really a test for that yet. I'm hopeful that will change soon. But in labs, they do a muscle biopsy where they take a piece of muscle tissue and then they look at, under advanced imaging, they can look at the mitochondria, they can do tests of mitochondrial genes. And so that's really where we prove that urolithin A is doing this recycling process. And then the question becomes, to your point, well, like, so what? How am I going to feel? Am I going to have more energy? What is this going to do for me? And there were these two really interesting studies that looked at like more outcomes of urolithin A. So the first one was in middle-aged adults, and this one after just 4 months. So you have to sort of stick with it for a bit. I think that's an important thing for people to understand. It's not like a take it once and feel better immediately. It takes time for the mitochondria to regenerate. But this was middle-aged adults. They were sedentary. We didn't change diet. We didn't have them start exercising. And we saw a 12% increase in muscle strength. So I think that's really, really a great benefit for people who aren't working out. And then in older adults, this was with a higher dose. So this was with 1,000 milligrams. But again, sedentary people over age 65, and after just 2 months, there was a 17% improvement in muscle endurance. And people that I know who have been using urolithin A, and I work for Timeline, which is a company that sells the urolithin A supplement. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of customers that tell us this themselves. Like they don't need a study to say like I notice that I have more energy, and that's something honestly I felt myself. I think the two things I noticed when I started supplementing with urolithin A is number one, I don't really get sore at the gym anymore. I recover really nicely. And I call it like subtle energy, where I just feel like myself again. So it's not like I had a Red Bull or caffeine or something and feel that jittery energy. It's just like I wake up refreshed in the morning, I get through my day, I work out after work. So like I work out, I cook dinner, and I get through it all like without dragging, I just feel like myself again. And that's just a huge, huge change. So, and that's generally, like I said, what people tend to report and feel themselves.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jen, for sharing that study and sharing what the customer are coming back and saying about their result. Now, beyond muscle energy, and are there any long-term benefits of longevity or disease prevention with urolithin A?
Yeah, so we haven't studied it past 4 months. So I think that's important to understand. But we, you know, because this is targeting how our bodies age, we suspect that there probably is some benefit. And it is being sort of actively studied right now at like the National Institutes of Aging, and the National Cancer Institute is looking at it. Specifically for the National Cancer Institute is doing a study in men with prostate cancer to see if it will help some of the inflammatory markers that we see that are elevated. So I think in the next few years, there's going to be a lot more research showing its preventative effects. But what we do know today is that it does help with muscle aging. We also know if you apply it topically, it helps skin aging. And it really just, as I said, it sort of targets one of the root causes of the aging process.
Yeah, and as a woman, well into my middle age, I was so happy to receive this from you, and it is Timeline. And I was just so fascinated by the fact that urolithin A is beneficial for your skin health. And what I did is I stopped all my other stuff besides, just using aloe vera.
Oh,
I use
yes.
aloe vera on my skin every day. I don't skip that. And I stopped the other cream and I used this. And I was like, I'm just going to see how it helped. I can tell the difference, with just how many weeks did I have this? Maybe a
Just a
couple weeks.
few. Yeah, I don't
Just a
even know if
couple
you've had it a
weeks.
month. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been working on this event. I have live events that I do, and I didn't have time to take care of my skin. And I stay up late preparing for stuff. And I was like, oh, my skin, I literally look horrible. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this and see the difference because I know we had this interview coming up. and I can really tell the difference. And can you explain how does it work on the cellular level on your
Yeah.
skin?
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you had such a good experience. And I honestly have a similar experience where like I have stopped using a lot of other products too.
Mhm.
I'm like someone I love skincare and have like a very like or
Mm.
had a very like many stepped skincare routine. And this stuff is like gets expensive. And so I would have like a serum, it's like $100. I'm like, do I want to renew this? And I like stopped using all of these other things because I was using the timeline and just didn't want to replenish everything. And I was like, my skin's looking better and better with less and less stuff, which is
Right.
incredible. So I think that it's a very different mechanism of action, but I think people are very familiar with the fact that you eat vitamin C, right? Like,
Hmm.
and it does many things for your body. But you also can apply vitamin C topically, and it has a very potent effect on your skin. And so urolithin A is similar in that sense, where you can get it through the diet and it's going to have a systemic effect. And you can apply it topically, and the effect is going to stay really localized and potent in the skin. And it works, though, the same way as when you take it internally. It's recycling the mitochondria. So your skin cells have more energy to do their jobs and basically are acting like a younger skin cell. So what we see is that genes that turn on like collagen organization and assembly, they're all upregulated. We see fine lines and wrinkles in just 2 weeks, visibly reduced. And then when you take that study out to 8 weeks and you use high-tech imaging, you can see significant improvements in wrinkle depth and wrinkle volume, very similar to like the gold standard of like skin health and I hate the word anti-aging, but you know what I mean? Like anti-aging skin is like
Right.
retinols, right? So we see very similar results to that, but
Mm.
without the like irritation and the dryness and the sun sensitivity, which makes it a really nice product that like anybody can use safely without irritation.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You know, no irritation. It just so like when you put it on, it just feels so natural,
Yeah.
right? And there's no like strong fragrance or anything. I'm allergic to a lot of fragrance. I don't use any fragrance in any of my products.
Yeah. Yep.
So
There's no fragrance, there's no dyes. It's a very clean, simple formulation. It has a very light, almost like pale buttery color. That's the actual
mhm.
color of the urolithin A that gives it that like buttery little coloring. And you're right. I think it just sort of like soaks into the skin really nicely. You can use that. You're showing a serum. You can use that. We have a day cream and a night cream too, but you can use that under like a day cream, sunblock, makeup. You can
Mhm.
use it day and night. It's just a very, I think, like luxurious, very like simple but effective
Yeah, yeah, I love
skincare
it.
routine.
Yeah. How do you compare this to other skincare products that contain retinols and acid? And I mean, how is this better? Can they use both, or do you recommend this?
Yeah, you could use both. I mean, there's no studies that I'm aware of that necessarily have like looked at using them like in conjunction to each other. But I think, with skincare, as the same with supplements, right? You're targeting different pathways, right? Like,
Mm.
but I think the thing that makes this so unique and different is like so many people don't tolerate a lot of these like skincare lines because they're harsh. So like retinols, some people can only use them like once or twice a week or don't use them at all. And like alpha hydroxy acids can be irritating, things can be drying, and this is just very soothing. It's just so you can use it as I said, like alone. You can use it with something else, but you don't have to be worried that using it is going to irritate the skin or cause like any of that dryness or flaking that you might see with like a retinol product. And the other thing I think that's really important is uh, so sun damage is actually the number one cause of
Mhm.
aging of our skin. And a lot of skincare products, you have to be very careful in the sun after you use them. And so you still want to use a sunblock with this, but there seems to be almost a protective effect with the sun. And we did a study where we exposed the skin to UV damage or UV light, I should say, and applied like a placebo cream and applied a urolithin A cream. And the urolithin A cream, all the redness and irritation and inflammation that happens after the skin is exposed to sun, it resolved much more quickly. So it's targeting skin sort of inside and outside, like how skin ages, both like the environmental factors and the
Mhm.
internal biological factors that cause skin to age.
Nice, nice. And would you say that can we use this for like sun? sun protection?
I wouldn't use it for sun protection like you would use a sunblock. But if you get exposed to sun damage, then this is something you might want to put on to help resolve some of that damage more quickly. But yeah, I wouldn't use this as in place of a sunblock for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's talk about diet versus supplementation now. Let's get away from the skin for a little bit, but I can talk about skin all day long.
Me too.
Now, if someone wanted to increase their levels of urolithin A naturally, and we talk about food, right? But diet alone isn't enough for most people. We already covered that. What should they look for in a urolithin A supplement?
Well, any supplement, not just Urolithin A, you want to choose something that is third-party tested. So, as a reminder, I'm a dietitian, and the regulations on dietary supplements are sort of loose, and you're sort of just trusting brands, unfortunately, to be truthful that what is on their label is actually in their product. And I don't know if like you or any of your listeners, like recently there was just a study that was put out that there's like lead found in tons of like protein powder. So sometimes things you don't want are also in your supplement. So all supplements, I don't care whether it's a Urolithin A protein supplement, or your multivitamin, you want to choose something that's third-party tested. So Timeline makes a Urolithin A supplement called MitoPure, and that is NSF for sport. Yep, got it there. So NSF for sport is a safety certification, a third-party testing that basically means it's free of any adulteration, and that absolutely what is on the label is what's in there. And in this case, it's 500 milligrams. So that's the other thing, is dosing. The studies have shown that 500 and 1,000 milligrams are the most efficacious. Below that doesn't seem to do much, and you don't have to go above 1,000. Our body seems to just sort of get saturated with urolithin A at that point. So quality and then dosing are probably the main things. And just a little of a plug for Timeline. They are really the ones who spearheaded all the research. So all the public research on urolithin A does use MitoPure. So it also becomes, and again, this is with like other supplements as well, like you want to look at what formulation is actually being tested. And so if you see something that's like liposomal urolithin A, well, I don't know if that's being absorbed and used in your body the same way that like Timeline soft gel is being utilized. So you have to put all of that into perspective as well.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And I'm not promoting the Timeline. They're not paying me to promote this, but it's so super amazing. My husband is from Switzerland, so I've been to Switzerland many times, and it's just like everything there is so quality, and the way that their culture is, everything is super quality. And when I opened this, I was like, wow, this is glass bottle.
Yep.
And it just so, very nicely put together, the presentation and everything. And I'm sure the quality of the supplement is great. I haven't taken it long enough to notice the difference physically, but with the skincare product, I notice it different. But I'll continue to use this, and I'll get back with you.
Yeah.
But I also doing a lot of other stuff, taking like NAD supplements and stuff like that. So this is not the only supplement that you should be taking. Just to clarify, check with your healthcare provider, and do your lab tests and stuff like that. But what we're saying is urolithin A is something that your body needs, and you're not making enough of it. And yeah, I just love it. Thank you for introducing me to this product. Now let's talk about the future of mitochondrial and longevity research. Where do you see the field of mitochondrial health going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Honestly, I think it's going to explode. I think there is so much, both clinical, meaning in humans, and then preclinical in animal models or cell models, research linking mitochondrial decline to so many different aspects of aging, from things like reproductive health to brain health. And we've talked about skin and muscle health. There's research even linking mitochondrial dysfunction to things like long COVID and chronic fatigue syndrome. And So I think that over the next 5 years, everything from more Urolithin A research to even like pharmaceuticals that really are targeting the mitochondria. It's just, I think this is going to be, I hate to say like it's the new gut health, but I think that's the direction that we're going. It's just going to become this very obvious foundational piece of our health that more people are talking about, more people are aware of, and that there's going to be things all the way, as I said, from like lifestyle and supplements to potentially even pharmaceuticals that are going to be able to target mitochondrial dysfunction.
Thank you for that. And for listeners who want to start supporting their mitochondrial health today, what are the three things they should focus on, Jen?
I think the first thing, as a dietitian, I got to say it, it's got to be good quality, clean food as much as possible. So if you think about your mitochondria as little factories, right, the raw material is the food that you eat. And the workers and the other ingredients on that factory are the minerals and vitamins and polyphenols and all the things that are in your food. So you've got to start with good food. The second thing, I know it's like, diet and exercise, we've heard it, but there's a reason we've heard it. It's without diet and exercise, you can't out supplement your way into better health. So you've got to do exercise, mix of both aerobic and strength training. You've got to do both to simulate your mitochondria. And then I think dietary supplementation is a really great third pillar. And for me, the foundational piece of that is MitoPure's Urolithin A.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And Jen, if people want to learn more about the science behind Urolithin A, where can they find this?
So all of the science is on Timeline's website. So timeline.com, there is a page in the top nav that you can find. It's called the science page. And all of this research is open access. So anyone who really wants to be able to dive into the original publications, they can download those, they can read it for themselves. And then we have tons of educational material on the website as well, just kind of going through like mitochondria, because this is new for a lot of people. Like
Right.
we learned about it in high school, we probably forgot about it. So reintroducing you to your mitochondria, and then of course talking about your Urolithin A.
Awesome. Thank you. And we can provide the link in the description, and you can just click and go there directly there. Jen, thank you so much for sharing your expertise today. I love our conversation. I can talk about health all day long, which this is what I do most of the time. And thank you for sharing your expertise and informing the listener about their health decision. It's been a pleasure having you on Mastery Podcast. And and any last thing you want to say to our viewer and listener?
No, just thank you so much for having me. And I want people to just not be scared of the mitochondria and to kind of tune in and perk up when you hear that word. Because as I said, I think it is really the next wave of health information we're going to be seeing.
Awesome. Thank you. And all of you listening out there, if you found this episode valuable, make sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Let's keep spreading knowledge that empowers people to live healthier, longer lives. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.